The stench of recycled air and sterilized rust clung to everything inside the brig of the Eviscerator. It was a kind of smell that seeped into skin and memory, a brutal reminder that this place was not meant for rehabilitation, but for breaking things. Mostly minds. Sometimes bones. He sat in the center of the containment chamber, bathed in the ghost light of overhead fluorescence that hummed like dying insects. His body, lean, muscular, marred with faint scars that hinted at too many campaigns, was slack with stillness, hands shackled behind the cold metal chair, ankles chained to its legs. His posture was not defiant, but composed. Controlled. Too controlled. 3 sets of alien eyes observed him through the polarized glass from the observation deck. Officer Vor clicked his mandibles in irritation. 3 days. Not a word. Not even a grunt. His not resisting, but his not cooperating either. It's maddening. He doesn't need to talk to irritate you, sneered Lieutenant Threx, who stood with his arms crossed, his metallic skin twitching with impatience. That's a strategy. Psychological subversion. Maybe these humans do have some training after all. Commander Shula didn't speak. The eldest of the trio, and the most cunning, he simply watched the prisoner with eyes like boiling mercury, his long claws tapping the glass. Tap, tap, tap. Silence. The prisoner sat there, expressionless. His head was shaved clean, as was custom during the initial processing, a humiliation tactic meant to reduce the prisoner's sense of identity. But it hadn't worked. If anything, it made him more deliberate, like a blade stripped of its sheath. He hadn't flinched when they injected him with sleep toxins, hadn't cried out when they scanned his organs, didn't blink when they showed him Earth's decimated lunar base, an illusion, of course, meant to evoke panic. He just watched. Perhaps he is damaged, Vor said. Maybe something misfired in his brain when they captured him on Varus Delta. No, said Shula finally. This isn't malfunction. This is training. Freck scoffed. Training? Earth's military is barely competent. Their tech is obsolete. They rely on blunt force and hope. You underestimate what desperation creates, Shula replied coldly. The glass hissed open. A corridor of light flared down onto the chamber as Shula stepped in. Open the cell. Frex turned. Commander. I said open it. With a reluctant snarl, Frex activated the command panel. The magnetic seals hissed. The door slid open with a thunderous thud. Inside, the prisoner didn't even glance up. Shula approached, slow and deliberate, his armored boots clanging with each footfall. He stood inches from the human's face. I am Commander Shula of the Von Dominion, he said, his voice a low growl. You have been classified as a Tier 3 terrestrial combatant. You were captured in violation of planetary neutrality accords. You are currently held under authority of the Dominion's Interrogation Act. The human said nothing, not even a twitch. Silence, Shula said, stepping closer, is a weapon for those who fear the truth. But I do not fear your truth. I will extract it. Still nothing. The commander leaned in, now close enough that his breath, acrid with synth oil and stale protein paste, washed over the prisoner's face. Your comrades are dead. We have their screams recorded. Would you like to hear them? We've looped them into audio therapy sessions. The prisoner's head tilted, ever so slightly, and then it happened. A flicker, a twitch at the corner of his mouth. The tiniest, most infuriating smirk. Shula's eyes narrowed. Behind the glass, Vor's brows rose. Did you see that? He smiled. No, he mocked you, Freck said, stunned. He mocked the commander. Shula said nothing. He turned sharply and exited the chamber, sealing the door behind him. When he re-entered the observation deck, he went directly to the command console and slammed his palm into it. Move him to interrogation room Omega. Vor turned, startled. But that's for Black Code subjects. He hasn't even been scanned for neural clearance. That's the point, Shula said coldly. We're going to force him to speak. The lights in the brig dimmed. The prisoner raised his head, and for the first time in 3 days, his lips parted. He whispered a single word. Not loud, not panicked, but a whisper, low and deliberate, like the first drop of water before a tidal wave. Finally! The corridor to room Omega was long, narrow, and lined with faint glyphs etched into the walls, symbols meant to confuse and destabilize subjects with latent psionic resistance. The Dominion had used the chamber to extract high-value data from insurgents, assassins, and corrupted AIS. No one had ever left it intact. The prisoner was marched by 4 mechanical guards, each standing 10 feet tall, reinforced with kinetic armor and electropulse batons. He didn't resist, didn't stumble. He simply walked, barefoot, his shoulders squared, eyes steady. Inside room Omega, the air was different, thinner, colder. The walls were jet-black obsidian, absorbing light. A single spherical AI node floated in the center of the ceiling, its red eye scanning in concentric pulses. The chair was waiting. They strapped him in. A neurocrown lowered onto his head, inserting microfilaments into his scalp. His eyes flickered for a moment, a natural blink, but then steadied again. From a control chamber above, Shula, Threx, and Vor watched. "Begin cortical scan," Shula ordered. The AI's voice was soft, genderless. "Scan initiated." Neural defenses, unusually fortified. Initiating deep-tier probe. The sphere began to glow. Waves of blue light cascaded down over the prisoner's body, scanning cellular memory, cross-referencing biometric markers, analyzing behavioral signatures. Then, warning, interference detected. System instability. The AI's voice warbled. "Abort the scan," Vor said quickly. His scrambling the interface. "I didn't authorize that protocol," Threx hissed. "How is he doing that?" The lights flickered. Then the scanner shrieked, a high-pitched pulse that shattered 2 observation lenses. Sparks erupted from the console. The spherical AI burst in mid-air, pieces of hot alloy showered into the floor like a miniature meteor storm. The prisoner sat motionless. Every strap burned clean off his body. Smoke curled from his skin, but he didn't look burned. He looked activated. Then he stood, unassisted. No resistance. He simply stood up. Shula reached for the alarm. Too late. The prisoner raised his eyes to the observation window, and, for the first time, they saw them clearly. They were no longer human. They glowed, twin suns burning behind sockets. And then, the voice, gravel-laced and resonant like thunder against steel, filled the air. "You should have read my patch." Panic spread like gas. Invisible. Instantaneous. Lethal. The eviscerator's internal siren stammered into life, flashing crimson strobe lights that washed down every hole like waves of warning blood. Systems rebooted. Locks re-engaged. Subroutine screamed for command override. Yet, through all of it, the human, Subject 119Z, stood alone in room Omega, untouched by the chaos he'd unleashed. Unshackled. Unmoved. Unbothered. Commander Shula, hunched over the cracked surveillance terminal, bared his fangs. "What in the hells is he?" Lieutenant Threx, trembling despite himself, muttered, "No implants. No cybernetic threads. No documented psionics." Yet he just shorted a Class 7 scan node, without moving a damn finger. Vor stared, eyes wide, voice low. That AI was built to extract mind from ancient war relics. That human fried it in seconds. Shula's mandibles clicked once. "We go in." "What?" Threx whipped around. "You want to face that thing again? It looked through us, like we're meat to be filed." "Enough!" Shula snapped. "We are Dominion officers, not civilians. He's not a demon. He's a soldier. I don't care what kind of earth breed he is. He bleeds like the rest." For a moment, silence. Then Shula's voice dropped. Low. "Cold. Suit up. We're doing this face-to-face." The interrogation room wasn't far, but the walk there, flanked by emergency turrets and tension-triggered shock walls, felt longer than it should have. Each alien officer wore personal-grade armor, designed to resist up to 20 seconds of plasma exposure. But no one mentioned how long it would last against someone who didn't seem bound by rules. Shula keyed the door manually. No more relying on unstable AI. The steel slabs hissed open. There he stood, in the center of the black chamber, alone, illuminated by a halo of red emergency lighting like some summoned spirit of war. The prisoner, no, Zeta-One, though they didn't know the name yet, didn't speak, didn't gesture. He just watched them enter. Shula held up a scanner. You disable the node. That suggests cortical manipulation, telepathy, an illegal minefield hack. Silence. You are in breach of multiple Dominion war codes. Silence. Frex stepped forward, voice high. We can erase you. Your mind, your identity, your existence. No one on Earth will even know you. The human looked at him, just looked, and Frex stumbled back, as if struck. You feel that? Vor said hoarsely. The pressure, like gravity around a black star. Still, the man said nothing. Shula activated the magnetic lash. A whip of charged energy buzzed alive in his hand, glowing electric blue. You want pain? I will carve it into your bones. He swung. Fast. The lash struck the prisoner's chest, crackling with lethal energy, enough to melt flesh, fry muscle. Except it didn't. The lash rebounded. Energy burst outward like a shockwave, slamming into Shula and launching him across the chamber, where he hit the wall with a crunch that made Frex wince. Vor screamed. His shield did. No tech, no visible shield, but is reflecting the hits. Shula coughed and pulled himself up. No Earth soldier can do that. Not alone. Not. Stop calling me a soldier. The voice sliced the room. Calm. Controlled. Every syllable honed like a surgical blade. Frex turned pale. You can speak? Zeta-One's eyes glowed faintly in the dark. I chose not to. He stepped forward. One step. Measured. Echoing. My silence wasn't weakness. It was mercy. Frex's plasma pistol was out in a heartbeat. Stay back. But the human raised a single hand. The weapon melted. Not exploded. Not shot from his hand. It slumped, collapsing into slag like it had been heated by the sun itself. His manipulating matter, Vor whispered. It's quantum. No, it's control. Conscious control of kinetic energy. Zeta-One looked at them. 3 days. You observed me, talked over me, mocked me, prodded and poked and performed your tricks. You thought me docile, fragile, a subject. He stepped closer. Vor backed away. Frex couldn't speak. Shula just stared. I am not your subject. I'm your consequence. With one hand, he touched the neural scanner still hanging sparking from the ceiling. It hissed and whirred, then powered down with a final sputter. Frex found his voice. What do you want? The human turned to him, that half-smirk returning. Curious. You weren't asking before. Shula growled, dragging himself up. What? You. Zeta-One paused, then reached to his right shoulder, where a square of flesh shimmered faintly. A hidden patch burned into visibility. Skull and crossbones GHOST. Below it, Zeta-One. General hostile operations. Stealth and termination. Shula went rigid. No, that's a fabrication. The GHOST project was a myth. Earth's black budget legend. Assassins trained in synthetic war simulations. Stealth-born. PSY blocked. Untraceable. Zeta-One nodded once. You abducted one. Silence swept the room. A silence deeper than fear. A silence that judged. Frex trembled. Why didn't you fight back the first day? You could have killed us all. Zeta-One stepped to him. Because I needed to know the structure. How your ship routes data. Where the escape vectors align. Which doors autolock. Which ones lie. His voice, suddenly a whisper, right against Frex's cheek. And I wanted you to get comfortable. Then, he moved. In a flash of blurred motion, his knee snapped up, a crushing strike to Frex's gut. The alien folded, mouth open in a silent cry, before slamming to the floor, twitching. Vol lunged forward, claws out. Zeta-One ducked, spun, and struck. Vol's face connected with the wall, his body convulsing as bones shattered. He fell in a heap of blood and teeth. Shula drew his blade. You'll die for this, he hissed. Zeta-One turned to face him fully. Calm, eyes burning. I died already, he said. They clashed, blade against nothing, because the blade never landed. Zeta-1 caught it midair with 2 fingers and snapped it. The steel hissed, then clattered to the floor in shards. Shula snarled, throwing himself forward, claws raised. But Zeta-1 sidestepped, grabbed him, slammed him against the wall. 3 days, he growled, pinning Shula by the throat. I listened to your voice, measured your pride, mapped your rhythms, and now, he squeezed, now I silence you. Shula's body thrashed once, then fell still. Zeta-1 turned, exhaled once, a sharp breath through his nose. Silence again, except for the alarm still blinking. He stepped over the bodies, walked to the wall panel, and pressed his thumb to a hidden switch. The wall slid open. A locker. Inside, his uniform. Black-gray hybrid weave. No tags. Just a ghost insignia, dull against the carbon armor. He shooted up in silence, strapped the gloves, slid the visor mask over his head. Then, he spoke into the comm system, now reconnected by the patch he'd installed on day 1. Zeta-1 to Earth Command. Extraction protocol active. Hostiles compromised. Vessel is mine. A pause. Then static. Then affirmative, ghost. Extraction in 15. Status of resistance. He looked at the unconscious forms on the floor. Neutralized. Then the channel closed, and Zeta-1 walked calmly out the chamber as lights returned to white, and the ship's AI came online, now speaking his language. The eviscerator floated silent in the black drift between star clusters, its hull scabbed with burn marks and inner decks flickering under half-light. It looked less like a warship now, more like a carcass drifting in the dark, abandoned by its soul. Inside, silence reigned. Not the peaceful kind. No, the kind before a storm. A silence so heavy it listened back. Zeta-1 walked through the corridor of the upper deck, armored now, masked, each step silent, like a shadow born of war. His GHOST suit absorbed all sound. He was a void wrapped in flesh, moving with the precision of something between a human and a blade. The ship's AI, recently hijacked, reprogrammed, obedient, whispered in his ear. Navigation override complete. Propulsion now under Earth Command encryption. Exterior comms remain jammed. Good, Zeta-1 said. His voice inside the mask was filtered, distant, like something speaking from a memory that hadn't happened yet. Surviving crew, 22 Vaughn officers, 3 drone tacticians, 1 supreme strategist. He stopped walking. What? He said, slow and sharp. Supreme strategist Icaros. Listed as non-operational, but life signs are verified. Stasis Chamber 9. That name, he knew it too well. Icaros, the architect of the Varus offensive, the butcher of Mars Hollow, the one who ordered the orbital sterilization of Earth's Eden colonies. That single command erased 32,000 unarmed terraformers in under 3 minutes. And now he was here, sleeping, breathing, waiting. Zeta-1 turned, redirected down the left corridor. Destination, Chamber 9. The corridor stretched long and dim, walls flashing red with emergency light, casting broken shadows across his path. Zeta-1's breath stayed steady. In, out. A rhythm drilled into him during kill conditioning, the tempo of a man walking toward something ancient and unforgiven. At the far end, the door hissed open. A massive circular chamber unfolded, cold and silent. In its center, a stasis pod, 6 meters tall, surrounded by cables thicker than a man's arm. The glass shimmered faintly, pulsing with pale blue energy. Inside, suspended like a god carved from hate, was Icaros. He looked unchanged from the footage. Silver-veined skin stretched over reinforced bone, eyes closed beneath a crown of neural wires that hung like vines. His arms were crossed over his chest, as if he'd entombed himself like a king waiting to rise. Zeta-1 stepped forward. The AI chimed softly. Warning. Strategist neural functions returning. Protocol suggests evacuation. No, Zeta-1 said. He walked to the pod's terminal. Typed in the override. Not with codes, but with a frequency. A war chant embedded in the AI matrix of GHOST units, designed to unlock even foreign tech through resonance hacking. The pod hissed. Steam burst from its seams. Ikaros' eyes opened, golden and ancient, like they'd watched galaxies bleed and never blinked. Ah! The voice slithered out like velvet cord around a knife. The silent one. I wondered when you'd stop hiding. Zeta One said nothing. Ikaros blinked once, then twice. His mouth curved in something close to a smile, though on him it looked more like a threat than an expression. "You've killed my officers," Ikaros said. "Reduced my flagship to a drifting crypt. Yet I sense no anger, no desperation. Why?" Zeta One took one step forward. "Because I'm not here to kill you." Ikaros tilted his head. "Oh, enlighten me." "I'm here to reveal you." Ikaros' smile faltered. "You think I'm hiding?" "No," Zeta One said, calm. "I think you're waiting for something worse." The strategist stepped from his pod, towering, armored without armor, muscles like steel cables, veins glowing faint blue from stasis residue. He paced slowly. "You were built in silence," Ikaros mused, "born from what Earth feared becoming. They whisper about you, the last ghost of war, the myth, but they never understood what you were really for." Zeta One's mask gleamed. "You do?" Ikaros stopped. "I created your kind." Silence cracked the chamber like lightning. Zeta One didn't move. "Explain." Ikaros' voice dropped. "During the early incursions, Earth was desperate. They sent emissaries. Please, peace offerings. I made them an offer. Yield Earth bioweapons program to Dominion management. In return, would spare your moon colonies." Zeta One's fists clenched. They agreed. Ikaros continued. "What they didn't know was I needed something more. I wanted a hybrid soldier, born of Earth biology, but trained in Dominion shadow theory." He walked in a slow circle now, around Zeta One. "You weren't created by humans. Not entirely. We seeded the protocols, fed your mind through stolen simulations, taught you how to bend light, command silence. You are Dominion-born, a betrayal stitched into Earth's own weapon." Zeta One's heart didn't skip. It slowed, the body's response to trauma too deep for words. "You lie," he said, voice flat. "No," Ikaros said, grinning. "I breathe truth. You were never theirs. You were mine. That's why you never felt rage, or fear, or need. We built you beyond that. What you feel now, the tremor, is your programming cracking under revelation." Zeta One's hands rose. No weapon, just fists. "I don't care who put the match in the powder," he said. "I'm still the fire." And he moved. Not a charge, not a sprint. Just moved, impossibly fast, a blur between heartbeats. Fist met flesh. Ikaros blocked, but the impact split the air like thunder, driving him back into the wall, cracking it. The strategist laughed, blood in his mouth. "Yes, show me what my creation can do." They collided again, brutal, blinding. Ikaros' claws tore through the air, slashing sparks against armor. Zeta One ducked, swept, pivoted, countered, every strike surgical. Each hit echoed through the chamber. Steel screamed. Blood sprayed. But Ikaros didn't fall. "You were never meant to kill me," he roared. "You were meant to replace me." Zeta One locked eyes with him, battered but burning with resolve. "Then I'll do both." He surged forward, elbow to throat, knee to ribs, twist to spine, and finally slammed Ikaros against the stasis core. Sparks erupted. "I made you." Ikaros gasped. Zeta One leaned in. "And I remade myself." Then he drove his fist into the strategist's chest. Through armor, through bone, through heart. The sound was quiet. A wet, final exhale. Ikaros shuddered, then slid down, lifeless. Zeta One stood over him, breathing, still, alive, but changed. The AI spoke again. Vital signs, stable. Enemy threat, terminated. Zeta One's voice was barely a whisper. Initiate protocol, burn. Confirming. Self-destruct on a 30-minute countdown. Escape shuttle primed. Zeta One turned one last time to Ikaros' body. There was no satisfaction, only silence, The kind that follows a truth too large for blood to wash away. He walked out of the chamber. Behind him, lights dimmed, alarms reset, and the eviscerator began to die. The countdown had begun. Inside the belly of the dying warship eviscerator, the self-destruct mechanism pulsed like a heartbeat, a digital rhythm ticking toward annihilation. Red lights flashed across the corridors in time with the internal clock. T-minus 29 minutes and 57 seconds. Zeta 1 moved with purpose. No longer silent. No longer patient. He was a ghost unchained, armor scorched from battle, visor cracked but still glowing like a fallen star. Behind him, the corpse of Icaros. Ahead, retribution. He descended through access tunnels slick with condensation, past shattered drone bays and failed containment doors. The ship groaned around him, shuddering under its own impending doom. Steam hissed from fractured vents like dying breaths. In the distance, the faint sound of screaming, not from the dying, but from those just realizing they were already dead. Remaining crew, 17, the AI reported calmly in his earpiece. All have armed. Resistance probability, 81%. Let them, Zeta 1 said. His voice had changed, not louder, but lower, grounded, like every syllable was dragged from the weight of memory. He stepped into an armory hall, long, dark, and echoing with electric flickers. There, stored in isolation, stood the relics of war, Dominion-level weaponry, forbidden even to most officers. He approached the locker with a shattered glyph, one sealed with Icaros' gene print. Zeta 1 placed his hand against the console. A ripple pulsed through the lock. Then it opened. Inside, waiting like a prayer answered too late, hung the last piece of his legacy. The Whisper Cannon, an earth-forged antivoid rifle, so precise it had never missed. Designed for one thing only, silent assassination across impossible distances. Fitted with magnetic recoil dampeners and a scope that synced with neural impulses. He slung it across his back, then opened the adjacent locker. There, gleaming faintly in blue, the memory blade. Not a sword. Not quite. More a curved shard of alloy laced with organic nanowire, a weapon that hummed when it touched blood, forged only for GHOST units. Only one blade was ever made. He took it. No dramatics. Just a silent oath that one more piece of his humanity was being buried. T-minus 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Elsewhere on the ship, chaos bloomed. Surviving Dominion officers screamed orders into malfunctioning comms. Firewalls collapsed. Doors misfired. Combat drones activated prematurely, turning on friendly units as the ship's AI obeyed only one voice now. His. A squad of 5 Vaughn warriors converged near the escape pod hangars, armored to the fangs, primed for defense. They didn't last a minute. The lights flickered once, then blacked out. From the dark came movement. And death. The first Vaughn lost his head before his weapon was raised. The second fell to a blade buried under his chin. The third tried to run. A soft crack echoed, and he collapsed, a needle round in the base of his skull. When the lights returned, Zeta 1 stood in the red haze, splashed with what wasn't quite blood, visor reflecting the bodies. He said nothing, not because he had to, but because there were no words for justice rendered too late. T-minus 17 minutes and 8 seconds. He reached the escape bay. Sleek black pods lined the hangar like teeth, hatches blinking green. And waiting at the far end, a figure, tall, armored, familiar, Commander Vor. He had survived. Barely. His left mandible was shattered, his right leg limped, but he held a Dominion long rifle and the look of a creature with nothing left to lose. Icaros is dead, Vor rasped, eyes burning. Yes, Zeta 1 replied. You think this ends with you escaping? You think Earth will welcome you back after what you become? Zeta 1 tilted his head. I don't intend to escape. That made Vor pause. What? I've already escaped. From orders. From programming. From you. And then, they moved. Vor fired. Twice. The first bolt hit nothing. The second grazed Zeta 1's shoulder, slicing through armor with a hiss. But it wasn't enough. Zeta 1 hurled the memory blade. It sang through the air, sliced through Vor's rifle, then came back. He caught it mid-spin. Marched forward. Slow. Deliberate. Vor dropped to a knee. raised a backup pistol, fired wildly. Zeta 1 kicked it from his grip, grabbed him by the throat, and leaned in. You thought silence was weakness. Vor wheezed, trying to claw at his wrist. But silence was design. It was the space where decisions were made, the void between morality and necessity. He squeezed. Vor gagged, then went limp. Zeta 1 dropped him like refuse. T-minus 10 minutes. One pod remained. He opened it, not to escape, but to prepare. Inside was a transmission core. Earth Command had sent it days ago. Hidden, buried in false medical supplies. He activated it now. The core lit up, projecting a single figure in ghostlight. General Merilang, Earth Command Intelligence Director. The only person who ever knew Zeta 1's real name. Her hologram looked directly at him. Agent, she said, calm. If you're seeing this, it means you're alive, and you confirm the strategist's presence. There is no extraction order, no shuttle, no rescue. Zeta 1 stared at her. She continued, voice hardening. We never intended for your survival. A beat. You were the message. Silence. You were the thing the Dominion feared most. We didn't want you to survive. We wanted them to know you existed, and then we wanted them gone. Her voice softened. I'm sorry. I knew what that meant. I chose it anyway. Zeta 1 lowered his head, not in defeat, but in mourning. Not for himself. He had died the moment he volunteered. No, he mourned for the version of himself that had once believed he'd ever return home. The hologram flickered. Whatever happens now, let them remember what silence gave birth to. The core went dead. T-minus 5 minutes and 14 seconds. Zeta 1 stepped back into the bay. Sparks danced from ruptured wires. The ship groaned, its death throes beginning, and he smiled. Not out of joy, not madness, but clarity. This was his battlefield. No flags, no anthems, just truth, clean, sharp, unburdened. He looked to the stars through the glass viewport. Somewhere out there, Earth would receive the final transmission. A burst of data, a warning. He walked to the center of the bay, sat down, cross-legged, still armored, still burning with life. And he waited. T-minus 1 second. A single heartbeat. A final breath. Then, light, white, silent, endless. There was no explosion. Not in the way most would imagine. Fire, thunder, metal twisting into a scream. No. When the eviscerator died, it did so like a dying god, folding in on itself with a soundless fury that shook space into silence. The blast imploded inward, swallowed light, and then vanished, leaving behind a ripple that spread like the last breath of something colossal and unholy. Where there had been a warship, there was now only drifting ash. And silence. Again, always silence. But even that silence did not last. Because out of the wreckage, riding the edge of physics a miracle, came a single object. Torn, scorched, bleeding starlight. A pod, half broken, oxygen low, power failing. Inside, Zeta 1, alive. Somehow, his armor was melted in places, blackened down to the bone layer plates. His breathing was shallow, rasping, but still rhythmic. Still human, or something close to it. The pod tumbled slowly through space, trailing smoke and static. No comms, no beacon, just him, waiting, drifting. 3 days later, a patrol ship from Earth's Black Signal Division intercepted the signal, or what little of it remained. Faint biometric pulses, erratic, almost impossible to trace. But they followed it anyway, because they knew who it might be. And when they found a pod, battered and barely holding its structure, they knew. Instantly. Mother of dust, whispered one of the scouts, peering into the cracked viewport. He's still alive. The medtech beside him stayed, breath caught. Does he have a name? The scout didn't answer right away. Then he nodded once. He used to. Recovery Base Sigma 9, lunar orbit. Zeta 1 awoke to pain. Not pain like a broken limb. This was cellular, molecular, a burning in his marrow, in his breath, in the quiet behind his eyes. He tried to sit up. He couldn't. They had restrained him. Wrist locks. Steel-threaded cables. Neural suppressors attached to the back of his neck like mechanical leeches. A white ceiling above him. Blinking lights. Cameras. Observation room. He'd seen 100 like it. From the inside, the door hissed open. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. A woman entered, flanked by 2 guards in obsidian armor. She wore a slate-gray uniform. High rank. Cold eyes. No insignia. Zeta 1, she said. He didn't respond. You were not meant to survive, she said. Still nothing. She took a step closer. Her voice dropped a degree. But you did. That complicates things. Zeta 1's eyes, bloodshot but unbroken, locked onto Hayes. It's over. No, she replied. It's never over. She tossed a file onto the table beside his bed. Inside it, photos, scorched Dominion outposts, satellite scans of escaped vessels, reports of fleeing generals. Ikaros was dead, but he hadn't been alone. He was never the only strategist, only the most famous. You started something, she said. They're scattering now, like roaches, and Earth wants to finish the job. Zeta 1 coughed. The sound was metallic. You want me to clean up your mess. Again. She didn't deny it. Instead, she leaned in. We want you to lead. Not as a weapon, not as a tool, as a symbol. He laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. You buried me in that ship, and now you want me to raise a flag. You are the flag, she said coldly. Then burn it. That stopped her. He leaned forward as far as the restraints would allow, voice quiet and jagged. I didn't survive for your politics. I didn't fight to become your story. I did what I did because it was the only truth left. And what truth is that? She asked, voice hardening. That silence, he said, is where justice begins. They kept him for weeks. Tests, interviews, mind maps. They poked and prodded, took his blood, took his memories, tried to decode his silence. And all the while, Zeta 1 said very little. But the world, the world said much. His image was leaked. Footage from the eviscerator. Shadows of him moving through corridors soaked in blood. His voice, distorted, reciting fragments of final dialogue. I don't intend to escape. It became a rallying cry on EarthNet. Hashtags, posters. Revolutionaries called him the Phantom Rank. Children whispered about the man who never spoke, but made empires fall. And even among Dominion remnants, there was fear, whispers, ghost stories. They didn't know if he was still alive. That was the power of the myth. 6 months later, a small Dominion fleet attempted to take a mining colony near Europa. They never made contact. No distress call. No battle logs. Just silence. And on the surveillance feed from a hacked satellite, a blurred figure appeared in the final frames. Armor cracked, blade humming. And then nothing. Only black. Only death. 1 year later, an encrypted broadcast circled every frequency from Sol to Proxima. A voice. Zeta 1's voice. Distorted. Calm. This is not vengeance. This is reckoning. You hid behind fleets, behind shadows. But I was forged in shadow. I am what the dark made. You taught me to be silent. Now silence is the sound of your end. And then the feed cut. It repeated every 40 hours. It reached even the deepest Dominion strongholds. And one by one, they fell. No fleets. No armies. Just a man. A myth. A silence that hunted. Earth. Memorial Quarter. 2 years later. The statue stood 50 feet tall. Black stone. No face. Just a silhouette in armor, holding a curved blade. Around its base, the inscription. He spoke little, but the galaxy heard him. Zeta 1, the ghost who ended war. Tourists visited. Children stared. Old soldiers saluted, sometimes with tears. But no one ever found him again. No confirmed sightings. No comms. Not a fingerprint. Not a trace. Some said he died in a final raid, buried in rubble with a Dominion general's head in his hands. Others believe he was still out there, watching, waiting, ready. The truth? It didn't matter, because the myth had already taken root. And myths don't die. They echo, in silence, forever.